Yeah, it eventually just became that it probably wasn't going to happen in running just because I couldn't handle that high mileage. And when I found triathlon, I still had the same goal. I just decided it was going to take a little bit longer. And so my goal would be to compete at the Olympics in LA 2028 in the triathlon.
Hello and welcome to the Eat More Carbs podcast. My name is Jenna Fisher and I'm here with my co-host Reilly Beatty. Today we're going to be talking to Annie Fuller about her Olympic journey and her career as a professional athlete.
Before we jump into today's episode with Annie, just a quick reminder that if you want to spend more time with Jenna and myself and receive individualized nutrition care, we are currently accepting one-on-one athletes to work with us in our sports nutrition programs. We will leave the link below so that you can apply to work with us today.
Reilly, how's your week going? What's your high and low?
So this week, my high and my low actually is the same situation, and it is kind of funny because it's going to show how things can change in my life very quickly. I'll start off with my high. Recently, I did a community event with a local soccer club. It was a female-only soccer camp, and it was really fun because we got to do like a nutrition station, and I got to do some nutrition education with 4 different groups, girls ranging from age 6 to 19. I go to the fields, I have my little station set up, and I start doing a couple, sessions with the girls, and I'm getting really good feedback from the parents. I'm feeling really good about myself. The parents have been super nice. One of the parents reached out and was like, hey, you did a really good job. There was not like any ums or things like that, and that meant a lot to me because you and I have talked about how I started on Instagram because I was so nervous about my public speaking, and I had a speech impediment growing up, so it's been nice to, practice my nutrition on Instagram and just all the work that I've been doing. It's nice to have that, I guess, like being paid off. But don't worry, I was humbled very, very quickly. This is my low. One of the groups rotates in. I give all the little girls a handout. This is like girls aging, I don't know, like 6 to 8. There's a picture of me on the handout because it's an RBSN library product. I put our pictures on there. I give my little nutrition spiel. And then I go, what questions do we have? I ask the group if there's any questions. A little girl raises her hand. I'm like, great. Like, you have a question about nutrition. She looks at the handout and goes, is this you? And I was like, yes. She goes, it doesn't look like you. And I was like, yeah, that's, an older picture from when I had my hair a little bit longer. I have my hair up in like a ponytail with a soccer ball. And she goes, it doesn't look like you. And I was like, I just had my hair up. My hair was longer. She looks at me and goes, yeah, you should not have cut it.
No, she didn't.
And I got quickly humbled. I was feeling myself and I got quickly humbled by a 7-year-old girl.
Oh my gosh. Okay, well, first of all, let me just say your hair looks so cute cut short. So
Thank you.
I strongly disagree with her style choices.
So now I can just think about how I'm in for it with my currently 5-month-old daughter. I'm in for a world of pain coming soon. I just was really humbled really quickly because I was feeling myself. I was feeling like, wow, they're really interested in nutrition and they just wanted to shame me for my hair.
Your hair looks great. I like it short. So don't listen to her.
What about you? What's your high and your low?
My high is that this week I stepped outside of my comfort zone as far as from an exercise standpoint. It has been years since I've been to Pilates or done any type of workout similar to that. And a friend of mine here in Arizona invited me to go with her. I was a little bit nervous because it had been so long and I was like, Pilates is hard. But I went with her the other morning. It was so much fun. It was such a great workout. I am very sore, but just as a reminder to everybody that even when things feel scary, even when things feel new, sometimes it can be a great outcome on the other side of that. So that was just a fun thing to do. I'm glad that I went. My low, this is a story. When I was growing up, I loved Mary-Kate and Ashley. Mary-Kate and Ashley could do no wrong. I had all of their movies. I would watch them as many times as I possibly could. And I probably can recite way too many of the lines because I watched them way too many times. Like I could play the movie and say the whole script along with it. Currently, there is audio that's slightly trending, I would say, on Instagram that happens to be a song that is used in what I considered as a 10-year-old, an Oscar-worthy performance by Mary-Kate and Ashley. The movie, if you aren't familiar, is Holiday in the Sun. But anyway, this audio from the movie is now trending online, and it's just a song that they play in the movie during this specific scene. And I can picture, see, hear the the entire movie sequence whenever I see somebody's reel pop up that has that audio with it. And this song has been seared into every corner of my brain and I can't shut it off.
What song is it?
I'm not going to sing it. It's by this like teeny bopper like girl band. Laying down at night, I'm like laying there like humming along. I'm like, oh my gosh, like I'm trying to read a book and I'm hearing it like I'm trying to read, and it's nonstop. It's nonstop. So thank you, Mary Kate and Ashley, and thank you, Instagram, for making whatever that. I'm gonna have to look up the name of the song now and let everybody know, and probably play it on Instagram so that way people can just really know that song is from my childhood.
Is Holiday in the Sun the one with Megan Fox in it?
Yep. And the scene is with her in it. So the girl band is playing the song and she's walking through trying to find her summer romance, Megan Fox is. So if you've seen Holiday in the Sun, that is the scene.
Another low just for our generation is the fact that most people that are growing up do not know who Mary Kate and Ashley are, but they know who Elizabeth Olsen is.
Yeah, you're right.
So they don't know them as Mary Kate and Ashley. They know them as Elizabeth Olsen's sisters.
Wow. That is a low for not just the week, but the month, the year, maybe the decade, because you're really missing out if you didn't want to be the third Olsen twin. Reilly, I know we're both really excited for today's episode and for everybody to hear it. You have worked with Annie for quite a bit of time now, so I know that she's really excited to share her story about fueling. Annie is a collegiate runner who is now turned triathlete and a Los Angeles 2028 Olympic hopeful. We're super excited to share this interview with all of you. Annie, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks. Hi, I'm great. Glad to be here.
Annie, we have a ton of questions for you, but before we get into some of those, can you share a little bit about your background, kind of how you started in this career and like how you started in running and how it's evolved over the years?
Yeah, so my dad was an NCAA track coach, and so I kind of grew up in this setting, going to his practices and asking his guys that he coached to race all the time. And when my parents would go to 5Ks, I would always tag along and do the fun runs. And I just really I enjoyed it, which was kind of weird for a kid to enjoy running. Kind of also played everything I could growing up. I never specialized in it right away or anything. Played soccer, softball, basketball, and I didn't really only run actually until college. But eventually, the higher mileage in college kind of got me in a little spot where I needed to cross train a lot to supplement that. And so I eventually found triathlon and I instantly fell in love with that.
How long have you been competing in triathlons now?
It's been about 3 years, I would say, maybe even 4. It's the time has kind of gotten away from me a little bit. I feel like I'm a lot older than I think I am sometimes.
What is your hope with your career as a triathlete? I know that Reilly and I are kind of aware of that, but where do you want to go with your professional athletic career?
I've always dreamed of going to the Olympics since I've been younger. When I was younger, my mom used to call me 2020 because I had really wanted to go to the Olympics out of college in 2020, which I think is kind of funny because it was then in 2021 because of COVID. Yeah, it eventually just became that it probably wasn't going to happen in running just because I couldn't handle that high mileage. And when I found triathlon, I still had the same goal. I just decided it was going to take a little bit longer. And so my goal would be to compete at the Olympics in LA 2028 in the triathlon.
That is super exciting. I would love for you to share a little bit more about maybe your fueling journey. I know that we've worked closely together, but I think you have an amazing story and I would love for others to hear about it.
In high school, I was actually extremely terrible about what I put in my body. I feel like that's kind of normal. You're still a kid, you're still growing and going through things and can kind of just eat whatever. But I remember I would eat Pizza Hut and Little Caesars and Wendy's and stuff like that, honestly, daily. And I was still running fine. I literally ate a chili dog one time before the 2 mile in high school. I got away with it, but I think I definitely could have done a lot of things better and probably performed a little better. Looking back on it, I got into a really great college and was able to compete at MSU. I think when I got to college, that stuff kind of started to catch up to me a little bit, and I really needed to be a little more diligent about what I was eating to fuel myself and fuel my workouts. and my stomach just couldn't handle stuff like a chili dog anymore before racing. And so back then they didn't really teach you much in the NCAA. I think they're getting a little bit better with it. I was just kind of ignorant almost to what I should be putting in my body as an athlete that's trying to perform at a high level. I kind of started to get better at like nutrient timing and just like eating more of like healthier foods. Eventually it just became like more of an obsession than it should have been. And so I guess to answer your question, I've gotten better for long runs in the NCAA. Like I would literally go, wake up, run 10 to 12 miles and not fuel myself with like anything. And now as a triathlete, like that's crazy to think about. Triathlon itself has been really, really tricky to figure out fueling, which is why I've been working with Reilly, because it's super easy to underestimate how much I'm actually needing, especially on like really high training days, and kind of like what exactly I need. Another hard thing is having so many workouts to get done, sometimes in a short period of time since I have a job, and kind of figuring out what foods just work during that short period of time I have between, for example, like a swim and bike, and just seeing what works with the stomach constraints and the time constraints.
Fueling is all about practicing and making sure that we're getting in enough. So do you feel like that's a big thing that you've worked on, is making sure that not only do you have the right foods, but at the right times?
Yeah, I think one thing that's really helped me with that is when I leave the house to go work out, I always have stuff in my bag, like no matter what it is. Like if I'm going for an easy like 45-minute swim, I always have it there just in case I for some reason need it, or I'm like stuck waiting on the pool deck for longer than I thought I would be to get a lane, things like that. Because there's so many times where I'll like have forgotten to bring food, and it really, I can tell it just affects how my workouts go when that kind of thing happens.
I love that, because we always talk about like you want to have a plan A, but if we don't have a plan A, we need to have a plan B. So we need to have something, a backup option, and like throwing things in your bag, like you just mentioned, is such an easy way to make sure that we're setting ourselves up for success when we have all these other things to worry about.
Definitely.
What are some of those snacks that you've been adding in your bag?
So I kind of keep a variety. I would say I have like a couple gels. I have a couple like carb-based granola bars, and then I have protein-based granola bars. So like they're all for different things. Obviously, like if I'm done with my workouts for the day, but like won't be home for a little bit, like I'll go ahead and eat that protein bar after my workouts if I'm done. But like if it's between, I'll have like something that has more carbs, which is usually like a chewy granola bar, or I'll have a gel before like a swim, or if I'm going from like a bike to a run, like taking that gel.
Speaking of gels, those are one of the things that we think of as like an intra-run fuel source too. Knowing that you are an Olympic hopeful and you have longer training sessions, what's your strategy for intra-training fueling?
I would say that's something that I've been working on with Reilly, just getting more in when I'm working out. And that's something that I've really struggled with from going from just being a runner to being a triathlete, is when we're running, and especially in the NCAA, like we're not bringing fuel with us on our runs. And so just getting my stomach used to like taking in extra food while I'm trying to perform at a high level has been a little tough to get used to. I would say like I haven't really figured it out 100%. Like I couldn't give you like, oh, this is my go-to for like a 2-hour ride. This is my go-to for like a workout. This is my go-to for a race. I'm still trying to get that figured out, because it has been a little bit of a transition. Even though I've been doing the sport for 3 years, I would say I really haven't started to properly fuel myself until this year. So it's been a little bit of a struggle. I think I'm slowly starting to get that kind of thing figured out, and like see what works for me, and like notice changes when I take a gel compared to when I don't, and end up bonking on a ride and don't want to make it home. So
I think something that you've done a really good job at is kind of changing your mindset to having your fuel, especially, you know, those carbohydrates, like around your training or during your training, as another like tool in your arsenal, another weapon in your arsenal, which I think that was a really big mindset shift for you.
Yeah, definitely. Just kind of like the education, I think, is what has really been able to like give me that mindset shift. In college, like I was saying, where it's getting better, but I wish I had like more resources and more just like awareness of how important like like fueling your body for what you're doing is. Even in other sports, you still need to eat a certain way to perform at your best level. And I just think that I really could have done a lot better job and probably like performed better in college had I had that like knowledge and education, because it also just, it gives you more clarity and confidence to fuel yourself in that way. If you know, okay, like eating more is always going to be better than eating less.
Ooh, Annie, I love that. What are some of the performance benefits that you have seen from these changes that you've made with your fueling?
Yeah, I mean, I think, like I said, just noticing small differences when I'm, for example, like out on a longer bike ride, of actually being able to make it home without being miserable in the last hour. I've noticed if I'm doing a hard workout, I'll have a gel if I time it correctly. As soon as like it's working for me, I realize in like that higher intensity, because I feel so much better. And I know it's not my legs, it's not anything else. Like, you know, your body, I know it's that, oh, like this energy is definitely coming from what I just put inside my body.
Going from running to being a triathlete, what was that like for you? Because I can't imagine picking up a new sport. And from what I understand, swimming was a little bit newer to you. So, how did you kind of overcome some of those challenges that come along with like picking up an entirely new type of exercise?
Yeah, in regards to just learning the sport, swimming has definitely been the tougher of the two to learn. It's just so technique based and just requires so much extra time and just like yards and yards and yards, or meters and meters and meters in the pool. The thing with swimming is the technique. If you can't get the technique, then you're not going to swim faster. And it's crazy because you can have such a high amount of fitness, but if you fail to like get those like neural connections and really like learn how to actually swim freestyle in a way that's going to efficiently get you to where other people are at, it's like nearly impossible to stay with the people that are, you know, like the top of the world. That's definitely been really tricky. I would be very confused when I was like first learning how to swim and some 80-year-old lady was passing me in the lane next to me when I'm working really hard and super fit, but I didn't have the form down yet. And so I think it's just really something that everybody always says, oh, like it takes time. And they say that about like lots of different things, but it really did just take like a lot of time to kind of get it figured out. But I think I'm most of the way there. It definitely still could always improve, just like I can always improve with my fueling. But it's been a long road, and I'm pretty happy with how it's going so far.
So, as it relates to fueling, I'm going to say that again. Sorry, I think I echoed really loud. Um, can you guys hear echo?
I've heard one the whole time, so I don't know how this is going to go. I'm hoping that it just uploads all the individual audio and we see how it turns out, but we're going to work with it.
Okay.
So, as it relates to fueling, Annie, if somebody's at the beginning of their nutrition journey, or maybe is listening to this and thinks I'm, you know, a triathlete or I'm a runner and I want to be better, but maybe I'm scared to introduce some fueling or some nutrition during my training, I guess, what is your advice for those athletes?
I think it's tricky because I'm still scared sometimes. I think the thing that is the trickiest is that once your relationship with food takes a hit, it's really, really hard to develop a good relationship with it. And so I think it's really just that mindset shift of the education and giving. Like, I would give them, you guys, I would tell them you should really work with someone who's qualified to explain to you why fueling yourself properly is going to be the best possible thing for you. Because like I said, it's really hard to kind of shift your mindset when that relationship with food has been compromised.
Almost like learning to swim and working towards healing that relationship with food and making sure you are properly fueled. Just like you said, it takes time and it takes effort and it takes dedication to get there. But to watch you continue to kind of make that progress, both performance wise and fueling wise, is amazing to watch just from an outsider's perspective.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I think you definitely nailed it. It's it's something that it's still taking time. It's not 100%, it's getting there, exactly like swimming. I think once it gets there, things are going to start to go a lot better. And I think once all the stars kind of align, that's when I'll really start to perform at my best. And so yeah, I think it's super important to just kind of, I know it's really, really hard and really scary, but you will get there. Like, I'm not even there yet. I have days where I'm scared too, but there will be days that you're not scared anymore.
Well, thank you for sharing that and getting vulnerable. I think people think that this is like a lot easier than it is sometimes. And so then I think people maybe get stressed out when they're in this journey themselves and it's not as easy as they think it's going to be and they take it really badly.
Yeah, I could definitely see why that would happen. I think I might have been the same way, like in my first year of like kind of trying to develop a better relationship with food, or just honestly like eat more. I was really confused why someone would be telling me to eat more when my goal isn't to eat more, it's to lose weight. With how much I've learned working with nutritionists throughout the years and then eventually working with Reilly, is just that sometimes you need to eat more to even lose that weight. And so if that is your goal, if you're not an athlete trying to perform at their highest level in season, if your goal is to lose weight in the off season, it's still sometimes you need to eat more, and you need to eat more of different things that you wouldn't think that you should be eating.
It just goes against everything we've taught in society. It's like the idea that if you eat more, it will be a better situation.
Yeah, definitely. It's a very interesting concept, but like ultimately, I've told Reilly this several times, is that for me, like honestly, if I weighed 180 pounds as a 5'10" runner, but I was running the way I wanted to run, I wouldn't care at all. Like, I think that's something that a lot of athletes don't really grasp, is that like the scale does not matter if you're performing the way that you want to perform. And that's basically like fueling to perform, is just getting to that point where, okay, yeah, I'm this weight, but this is the weight that's going to make me the best athlete I can be.
The scale doesn't define you as an athlete or as a person. All right, Annie, so we have some fun questions for you. We ask everybody this at the end of the podcast, but it is the Eat More Carbs podcast, so we have to ask what your favorite carbohydrate is.
I would say, I guess it's not just a carbohydrate, but I really love a good pizza. I know it has other stuff on it, but it is like essentially like a huge source of carbs. I would say if I had to choose a favorite, it would be that, but my go-to is always pasta when it comes to like around competition or around like a big like training event that I have or something, just because it's very consistent in like all places. And like if I'm training in a different country or something, I can always just count on a good bowl of pasta.
What is your favorite pre-workout fuel?
It's super boring and kind of probably a boring answer when you're talking to like endurance athletes, but probably oatmeal. It's, again, just very safe. I would say that's my favorite pre-workout, but definitely not my favorite like breakfast by any means.
Why is that a boring answer? That's a great answer.
I mean, I don't know. I like it, but honestly, like working with you and working with like a nutritionist, like I've found so many other like fun options to eat for breakfast. And I'm not someone that, I like consistency and I like plans for sure, but I really don't like eating the same thing every day. And oatmeal's kind of bland and can definitely get boring, but you've definitely helped me spice it up. So
oatmeal's good though, because it is kind of like pasta where you can, and like you can always bring it with you for travel. Like you can throw it in your bag and all that stuff.
Yeah. I definitely do that quite often.
What about your favorite post-workout?
I really love a good Fairlife chocolate milk. That's definitely the only answer I could give you.
And then we asked this question that has turned out to be the hardest question that we asked. It has nothing to do with nutrition at all, but what is your favorite pair of shoes?
Other than my running shoes, probably my Air Forces. It's just the shoe that I wear pretty much all the time if I'm going out anywhere. But I have gotten really into UFOs lately because they're super comfortable, and since I have like a foot issue, I had to find something that number one worked for Arizona when it's insanely hot outside and my feet are like sweating all the time in shoes if they're not sandals. So I have really enjoyed UFOs, and like I can wear them around the house too. So not an UFOs ad, but I really like them.
But you can
I'm not sponsored.
Annie, during these conversations, you've talked a lot about how Reilly has helped you and how working with someone really helps promote your performance from a fueling perspective. But that's something that you do as well as help other athletes reach their potential. So what is the best way for people to find you, follow you, reach out to you, or to just simply follow along with your Olympic journey?
Yeah, I would say the platform I use the most is definitely Instagram. So if anyone's interested in either you're new to triathlon and want to learn more about it, or an experienced runner and just need some guidance coaching, feel free to just send me a message on Instagram, or there's also a link in my bio that you can check out, and I'll definitely get back to you. Annie_Fuller.
We will leave all of Annie's information below so that way you can easily find her on Instagram, reach out to her, and follow her. Thank you so much, Annie, for being on this episode. We so appreciate you sharing all about your fueling journey and your running career into your triathlete career. If you have questions for Reilly and I, you can always leave them below, or you can find us on Instagram. We're at the Eat More Carbs podcast. You can find Reilly on Instagram at reilly.beatty.nutrition, and you can find me at jenna.fisher.nutrition. Thank you so much for listening to this episode. Please make sure you rate, subscribe, and review. And as always, remember to eat more carbs.